here today with you in our webinar, which we do together with GroupLink. I thank GroupLink for invitation, and we focus today on our KeyShield SSO solution, which is pure IDP solution. So it's providing identities instead of storing your usernames and passwords somewhere. Let me tell you some information about SSO. I just try to start presentation. Can you see the slide? Hopefully it's working fine. So we do new projects. We are working together with Novell for quite a long time. I'm working with Novell products since 1987. So during that time, we did a lot of things. We have our GroupWise site, which is groupwise.cz, and we have also two products which are related to security. It's KeyShield SSO. We will focus on this technology today, and Secure Inbox. Let me explain you how it works with SSO from the IDP point of view, because I use two nice examples, Secure Login and Access Manager. Both are novel products, but this is common for any product. Those are specific classes of SSO solutions. Secure Login is working a little bit like maybe a browser. Browser is in fact also an SSO solution because every browser today is able to keep your credentials, and when you visit the website again, browser is able to enter your name and password instead of you, and you are in. You don't need to do it manually. So Secure Login is this class of SSO product. Let me show you in short how it works. You always have so-called secret store. Secure Login is able to use secret store within eDirectory. It works with Active Directory. It can use a cached secret store on the local drive. But basically, at the beginning, you have to authenticate to the secret store through the local client. So you authenticate to the secret store. It can work in that manner that you authenticate to eDirectory environment and you are in. So you open your secret store, and within that secret store, Secure Login is keeping your credentials to different applications. Secure Login is a typical Windows solution. So it's working on Windows desktop, and it supports whatever you can use on Windows. So you can work with a terminal emulator, with browser, with so-called FAT client. In all these cases, it's able to enter your credentials instead of you. So it makes things for a user really easier. So when you are going to access an application, you have to enter your username and password manually. Whatever, it can be within the browser or a different client. And what Secure Login does, it takes your username and password out of the secret store, it enters it into the form, and then it's even able to click enter or login or whatever to enter the form. So then it goes to the application, the server side, and you are in. That's the principle of the secret store-based SSO solution. Of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, browser is working in a very similar manner. The other class of SSO solution is represented in my presentation by NetIQ, formerly Novell Access Manager. And the typical scenario, how this is used, it's working like a portal. It's similar to Tivoli, for example. So it works like a proxy server. So you authenticate the proxy server. So, you can do that with your browser. You open the browser, you open the session against the access manager, and you are in. You can do this from the outside. This is a very common scenario that if users are outside local area network of the company, they are somewhere traveling, they use access to this portal, and the portal is allowing them, it's a reverse proxy, it's allowing them to work with systems inside the company environment. So you can have a screen within the proxy, and you've got an offer of applications which are enabled through this reverse proxy. You just choose your application, and now it's happening something pretty similar. Of course, it's just one typical scenario, but the proxy server is able to enter your name, username, and password like Secure Login is doing this on the workstation. This is done on the proxy side, and you authenticate and you are in. So this is another class of SSO solution. Now, I'm talking about this because if you search for SSO solution, if you Google this, you find plenty of SSO solutions. Everything is named SSO, but those solutions are really different. So we see two different classes of SSO solution. KeyShield is, as I mentioned at the beginning, pure IDP SSO solution, like Shibboleth, like CAS, for example. So we don't use any secret store, we don't keep any username and password. What we do, we provide user identity to integrated applications. So the huge difference between previously mentioned solutions and IDP solution is that the application, the system must be integrated. So it must be able to talk to an IDP provider. In previous cases, there were nothing. You know, you can work with whatever. You can just enter your name and password, and that's it, which can be an advantage. But from, let's say, from security audit point of view, we can talk about this later. It's not an advantage. So in this case, the integrated system must be able to ask an IDP, in this case, our KeyShield SSO server, who is the user. The typical, you know, what is typical implementation of an IDP concept is SAML, of course. SAML is working like this. The application is asking the IDP, identity provider, who is the user, and it gets back information about the user identification. So with SAML, everything is happening inside the browser, and you can get a header which contains signed information about the user ID. Of course, you are in this case, the user is authenticated, but we've got the integrated system got only the user ID, nothing more. So if you need more, if there are other information, you know, necessary for the system, it must be read from user source. Typically, it's an LDAP source, can be eDirectory, Active Directory, and this is done on the system side, not on the identity provider side. If we see novel implementations, it began with ZenWork, and now with Firewide, new GroupWise 2014, new iPrint, all of them are pretty compliant with an IDP concept because, for example, Fire, very nice solution. It handles all internal database of profiles. This database can be synchronized with one or more user sources. So if the user is already imported, it's synchronized, the user has own profile and as Fire, and the system got the information, what is the user ID of a principal of the user, then it's able to search to find the right record in the profile database, and that's it, and the user is authenticated. So this is very new, very modern approach to authentication implementation, the implementation of authentication. Let me stop my slide work for a while, and I switch to my desktop. I have two servers here running on my poor MacBook. So I have a OES server with everything with eDirectory, GroupLink, Guava, Vibe, etc. I have Fire appliance running here and two workstations. Windows XP workstation, of course, I know it's out a little bit old horse, but still used, and I have Windows 7 workstation. We support all versions from Windows XP up to Windows 8. We support Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, Linux, Mac OS X. Now I have my environment Windows 7 and Windows XP against eDirectory. We provide exactly same in a pure Microsoft environment or in a mixed environment. So even if you have one eDirectory, two Active Directories, or I don't know, 5 eDirectories, 10 Active Directories, you still can use just one KeyShield SSO server, and you can connect everything together. When I authenticate, it's what millions of users are doing every day around the globe. I just authenticate. So I have my novel client. I'm in, you see here in the taskbar is an icon of KeyShield SSO server. I did nothing and it got green. By the way, we use 3 colors, red, yellow, and green, and this makes the usage of our solution much easier because red means no connection to the server, yellow means you are connected but you are not authenticated, and green, everything is okay. This is very nice. If you work with your help desk, with your service desk, you just can say, hey, I'm in trouble, I'm not green, I'm yellow. And they know that your network connection is okay, but something is wrong with your authentication, which is a little bit better than, for example, if you see this red N, I like it, it's perfect, but it's all the time red N. If you are not connected, you have no network connection, all the time it's red N. So now we have green. So we got automatically authenticated to KeyShield. There is an integration in between our client and the novel client, and it checks the identity of the user using a token which is stored in eDirectory, so it's pretty secure. And we are 150% sure that it's really this user, which is Joe Doe. I have few examples here. Let's try Fire, for example. I was talking about Fire. I really like Fire. Fire, you see, I'm in. It was quite fast. I'm Joe Doe, and here I'm Joe Doe. I'm authenticated. I'm in. I don't need authenticate. You can say, okay, this you can do with whatever because it's just a portal. Okay, but let me show you a miracle. I view details of this file. Just a file. It's a part of documentation, and I click edit this file. And you probably know that Fire is using more than one WebDAV interfaces. There is a WebDAV interface for local folders. There is a WebDAV interface for Mac folders. So if I'm going to edit this file, I'm not using this inside the browser, but thanks to a small Java piece of code, I'm opening just a certificate. I'm opening this document, this file through WebDAV interface for modification. And this is tricky because there is no connection in between a browser and in between a WebDAV client, which is included in the operating system, although Mac, for example, has implementation of WebDAV client. So in real world, you have to authenticate again. Yeah, so you authenticate, and WebDAV client is able to keep for quite a long time your credentials, so you are authenticated. You can close the session the browser session, and you are still authenticated, which is a little bit strange. You can even be authenticated as a different user, so you can authenticate as a Joe Doe via browser and as a Martin Smith via WebDAV, and it's working. If you have access rights, it's working. With us, you don't need to authenticate again. There is a very small but pretty smart authentication piece of code at the file side, which is in fact pre-authentication filter of Spring Security, because Fire is using Spring Security and it does everything. So if I start different browsers, because I need not only Firefox, but I have to work with Chrome or with Internet Explorer, or I use WebDAV, I don't need to authenticate anymore. I'm in. If I change something, I'm sorry, this was another webinar, so let me say good afternoon. Oops, sorry. Good afternoon, Salt Lake, and I can save, and it just happened. Now it's saved through WebDAV. It's back on the server. I can close this, no problem. And I can view the file again. You see, it was changed. Here is a blue point which says it's changed, and I can view details again, and you see good afternoon, Salt Lake City. So this is very nice for users. With a solution like FireEye, they can also use a desktop client, but when they want to manage shares, you know, they want to share to users who are outside, they are very often using this interface. So this is a very nice example how it's working. Of course, I can do the same with Vive. It's same integration, same concept is used with that. If I try to log off from Fire, let me try to sign out. Just sign out. It doesn't work. Try again. It doesn't work. Why? It's because Fire and Vive, they are handling sign out in that manner that they really sign me out, but then it takes me to the login page again. And because there is an authentication or integration piece of code which is talking to KeyShield, and I'm still now to KeyShield, this is still green, it authenticates me again automatically, immediately. Now it's a little bit slow, maybe over the line it's slowly going to you, but in the real environment, this is happening within tenths of, within, I don't know, half a second or maybe even faster. By the way, KeyShield is the fastest SSO solution on the market. We are so optimized, so smart that we are able to handle up to 10,000 SSO requests per second, 10,000. So we are able to respond within 100 microseconds. It's pretty fast. Once we did a questionnaire and we did ask our customer users how you like your new environment, and we did expect that they will say, oh, we are so happy that we don't need to enter our usernames and passwords so many times a day. But honestly, you know, the top response was, we are so happy that you made our network faster. Wow, you did nothing with your network. And then we recognize that they are happy because there is no authentication mechanism behind. They just get in. So any integrated system, like, I don't know, this Fire, Salesforce, everything helpdesk, of course, everything helpdesk is integrated as well. So they just get in a file. So it's nice. What I can do here, I can disconnect from the server. Just one click, you can disable this. You can say, okay, users can't do this, but I can. You need my demo. So you see now it's yellow. Yellow says I'm still connected to the server. I see the server, but I'm not authenticated. If I sign out now, I'm out. Yeah. Now I see the authentication form of file, because what happened, it signed me out, then it took me to the login page again, but it did ask KeyShield, who is the user. It responded, not now, and it's asking me now for my user ID and password. So it's not a miracle. I promise you a miracle. This is just a small miracle, but it's an example of how it's working. And of course, I can connect again. I just click. I don't need to enter anything because there is still working the integration with the novel client. So it just did again what happened at the beginning, and I'm in. It's again green. I can work with other integrated system like, let's say, Novel Vibe. Maybe you know Novel Vibe. I'm in again. I'm Joe Doe. And same trick here, I can't log out, yeah, because it's authenticating me back again. Let me show you for a while the KeyShield itself. It's not only as a SSO solution, it's also a very nice and useful administrative tool. This is a console of the system. Of course, I get in because it's also SSO enabled, and I'm listed as admin, so I'm in, and I can do. I can work with a console. I can, for example, check who is authenticated at the moment. I see just me. So let's make this more interesting. I switch to my XP desktop. It's just XP. You know that Windows 7 are a business edition, but this is Windows XP Home. Nothing, no client, nothing, just Windows XP. And here I'm red. I'm not connected. Let me connect. And because here is no Novel client, here is no Microsoft client. As I mentioned at the beginning, what we do for eDirectory, we do for Active Directory as well. So I have to authenticate manually. We call it manual authentication because I must enter my username and password. Of course, on other platforms like iOS, for iPhone, but I'm using iPhone, we support keychain. So you don't need really to enter username and password manually. You can keep your username and password in keychain, and then you just get in. Same on Mac and that. So I'm in as Martin Smith, different user. So if I return back here and list users again, I see 2 users, and I see the difference. This authentication has been done through the Novel Client integration, and this is manual authentication. What I can do, for example, now, and this is available also for authenticated systems, so you can integrate this to your portal. I can send a message to any user. I can send a message to one user, to group of users, to network. If you have a building with a specific subnetwork, IP subnetwork, you can send a message to anybody who is currently present at the building. Why we call it yellow message? There is interesting story behind, because one of our customers, we are selling this solution since 2009, so we are reaching 5 years, and one of our customers is a nuclear research institute. It's a serious business. They are really running 2 nuclear reactors, and sometimes they have to test an alarm. You know that alarm, nuclear alarm, it's like in the movie, and they were looking for a communication channel, how they can tell to employees, they have more than 1,000 employees, hey, don't worry, we are going to try alarm, but it's just a test, so don't run out, keep working, don't worry. So we developed, in fact, a yellow message for them, and they can send this is just test, and you can make it valid for maximum 2 weeks. This is very important as well, because If you use email for any reports like this, you know how it works. When you return back after vacation, you got hundreds of emails, and those emails are like, what about the lunch? And please be aware because tomorrow there will be no water supply in the building, blah, blah, blah. So 50% of emails are about nothing. After 2 weeks, those emails are about nothing. I just can do this, and I send the message to myself. This is working on any platform. So regardless, you have BlackBerry, you have Android, you have iOS, you always get a message pretty fast. Of course, I can also send a message to my Windows XP box. Hi there. I got nothing here, but if I switch to my XP box, it's here. So it's a common way how to work, and it's much better than to send emails. As I mentioned, we support as many directories at the time as you need. So it doesn't matter if you have more than one. And you see here, everything is okay. I have an e-directory on an OES server, and I also have embedded LDAP. So we have a built-in LDAP, which is available for you. You just can click, I want it, and it's running. And it may be some useless, but in fact, it can really help. There are no licenses. You can store users within embedded LDAP as you need. And it's Apache DS, it's powerful. And it can be used, for example, for external users. You don't need them in your main directory. You can keep them as embedded LDAP. It is a simple browser for embedded LDAP. You can create groups. You can create users. You can create groups. You can manage users, and it's very easy way how to work with those accounts. We have also LDAP viewer, so I can view a connector. If it's a very good tool if you need to solve some issues. You can browse your tree and you can see what your connector can see. So if you can find some user account, user object, it's probably about access rights to your tree or some inheritance filter, whatever. You can check with this browser what's wrong. Let me switch back to my presentation. Something. Oh, presentation. Okay. Let me pass. Sorry about this. Just a few slides, and we get in. Okay, so let me show you what is included with KeyShield SSO. I should say that we have a very nice licensing, which is similar to NetWare. Maybe you remember NetWare licensing. So it's about concurrent connections, and the rest you can do. You don't need a specific license for that. So if you have 3 directories and then 50 integrated applications, you don't need a specific license for that. So now I'm showing you what is built in the KeyShield SSO solution. There is, of course, a regime and admin console. We already saw how it looks. LDAP viewer is a part of the admin console, very important, advanced log. You can even change log level without restarting the system. You can investigate the communication in between clients and the server, and or the communication in between integrated application and the server. So you can investigate any issues pretty easy. We have yellow message engine. I show you how it works. You know, it's a very nice and easy communication tool. we have embedded data service, which is Apache DS space. We have security module, very, very important thing, because as you remember, we keep the information, who is the user, what is his IP address, what is the type of the authentication, and we are able to tell this, to provide integrated system with this. So you can work in that way that this can be open to whoever, so any application can ask, or we can use so-called app key and encryption. So with encryption from the integrated application side, you can check if you are really talking to the KeyShield server, to the right one, and you can use app key. So if the application has app key, it can get the information. Without app key, it doesn't work. So it's a security measure. Windows client installation is a specific thing, because with Windows you can use policies to control installation of app, but you can't really effectively control what user can run. And our client is easy one, so you can run it even without installation. So on the server side, you can say, okay, I will accept connections only from correctly installed clients. So it works only if the client is installed. As I mentioned, we support many directories. Of course, eDirectory and Active Directory, those two are fully supported, and then Open LDAP and generic LDAP. We have customers with Sun1 and other directories, Apache DS, our embedded DS, and everything is working fine. On the client side, it's very important we support all major platforms. So if your boss comes with a new nice shiny thing, no problem. We support Apple, BlackBerry, Android, as I mentioned before. And on Windows, at the moment, we support integration with Active Directory. So if the workstation is registered within a domain, within Active Directory, we can use NTLM like we are working with a novel authentication, or we can work with a novel client integration. And those scenarios are very interesting, because majority of users, they are still consuming network services on their Windows boxes. So this we can call not single sign-on, we can call it one authentication a day, because they authenticate the desktop and they then get into whatever. They don't need to authenticate again. This is very, very important for security, because if you need to enter your username and password 20 times or even more a day, you try to keep your password as short as possible, as allowed, as enabled. If you must enter your password just once a day, then it's no problem if your password has 15 or even 20 characters, which is much more secure than shorter passwords. Then what is important, we have 4 different interfaces for integration. Very important one is REST API. This is very, again, new, modern way. For example, new GroupWise 2014 has also REST API, so there is a complete management available through this API. And this is our fastest API and easy to implement. I will show you later how it looks. So, of course, in nearly any company network, you find old horses, old donkeys, simple in-house developed or customized applications. And users, they want them integrated as well. They want them SSO enabled. With REST API, it's easy. You can integrate even Fox-based system, why not? Here we have examples of modern systems like Firewide, Shibboleth, NUM, but we also do Squid and other systems. It's working. Here is an example how it works. It looks a little bit crazy, but if you follow numbers, you see that at the beginning we have a user, and user Joe Doe, and the user is trying to read novel.com. What is happening on the proxy side, there is an integration module, and it asks KeyShield who is the user. So it gets number 3, the identification of the user, but how it can be implemented that if the user is member of a specific group, then the user is allowed to go to the internet. If the user is not a member of the group, then it doesn't work. So it reads an information from the LDAP server, number 4, then it gets back a list of groups. Number 5, it learns that the user is member of restricted access group. So it goes to the list of allowed sites. We have number 6. Then it finds, okay, novel.com is allowed, no problem. Number 7, yes, you can go ahead. It's locked. Just record it that this user was visiting this website, and then the user gets the information. This must be pretty fast. I'm using example of Squid because if you read Squid documentation, and I mean the part about the external authentication modules, you find a very strict warning that your solution must be really fast. Because if it's not fast enough, then it can cause a crash of Squid because so many open requests. For example, one company which already developed their own integration with KeyShield SSO is WebTitan. WebTitan is a very nice proxy solution based on Squid, and we are first and only IDP provider they integrate with, because we are fast enough. As I mentioned before, we are able to do up to 10,000 requests. We are able to respond up to 10,000 requests per second, which is fast enough for Squid, for WebTitan. Even you have very, very fast connection to the internet. Here it's the information. Okay, next interface, of course, SAML. We need SAML, you need SAML. If you are accessing whatever which is outside Google, Office 365, Salesforce, if it's in cloud, SAML is a perfect solution. SAML is browser-based, you know, it's working with tokens, with headers. It's really complex thing, but we have an implementation of this. So if you run KeyShield, you can part what is on the local network, you can handle with REST API. It's fast, it's easy. What is outside, you can handle with our SAML implementation. Next, this is very specific, just eDirectory, but very important because you know there is no SSO enabled, and producers like Sophos, it was Astaro before, Cisco, McAfee, they were looking for SSO solution because their customers were looking for it, and they found that there is a network address attribute within eDirectory, and if you authenticate this is a multi-value attribute, so your IP address, before it was your IPX address, is recorded. It looks nice, but in fact, you know, unfortunately, it was not designed for authentication. So, in fact, this information is stored into the eDirectory by client, Windows client, and it should be removed by an NCP server. But NCP server is working in that manner that if it lost a connection with your client, it waits for quite a long time, so 5.5 minutes by default, and then it tries it again. And what is happening that your address is not removed for quite a long time, and also your address can be left in e-directory. So if you check the tree, you can find that there are thousands of IP addresses in the values of this attribute, but users are not authenticated from those IP addresses. So this is not reliable. Again, it's not a novel fault. It just was not designed for authentication. It's just an admin tool. But with us, what we do, we have our own network address attribute. It's here. You see on the left side is a standard situation. So there is an LDAP map to network address. There is a list of addresses, and it's handled by a Windows client and NCP server. And with our implementation, we have our own network address attribute. We change LDAP mapping. So if your Astaro, your Cisco is reading network address attribute, LDAP attribute, it reads our attribute, and there is a KeyShield server, and it's taking care about this. So it's exact 10 or maybe 100 milliseconds after you log out, your IP address is removed from the directory. So this is rock solid. This is really secure. This is working. Fine. So if you have this, whatever proxy firewall from Cisco, Astaro, Sophos, McAfee, you can use this. Last one, radius accounting. It's just for another group of firewalls and proxies. The FortiGate, SonicWall, Lightspeed is using radius accounting as well. What is radius accounting? Of course, we don't do radius server. It's pretty old, just about usernames and passwords. But there is a mechanism which is sending packets like just information. I just authenticate. I log out. I log in. I log out. And those firewalls, those proxies, they collect this information, so they know that on this specific IP address is this user. And if you try to use a proxy, if you try to connect firewall, pass the firewall, it checks the internal table, and if your IP address is there, you get in, you are passed, you are going out to internet or whatever, it depends. So what we do, our server is sending those packets, radius accounting. You just set who is the consumer of this, and it goes to your firewall. So you see the whole puzzle. We do whatever you need on your LAN network, one network. Regardless, you have one headquarters or 1,000 subsidiaries. We can cover this. And I return back for a while here. Oops. I'm back on my Windows 7 desktop, and here is again a console of KeyShield SSO. I would like to show you just for a while the configuration. So I was talking about radius accounting. You see that if I just enable this functionality, I set target host, and then and the port on which the host is listening, and then server start sending information to that firewall. Set it pretty easy. New version, we are working, of course, we continue to develop our solution. Now we are working on improvement that you will be able to set up to 5 different consumers of this, because we got nice customers and they have, I don't know, 2 Lightspeed and 2 SonicWall, 4 together, and they need to supply all them by this information. So we are going to work with more consumers. SAML, pretty similar. You need to specify or you need to have a set of settings for each integrated service. So if it's Google, for example, to say it's a Google.com, this is my ID, By the way, Google is not taking care about the authentication mechanism use, whatever. It just needs to have the signed assertion. So you say I need to sign, and then you can work with Google. In this case, in case of Summer, it's the only scenario when we can use KeyShield without a client. We have a client for each platform, and in this case, you don't need a client. It's the only situation, because it's supported by Summer, when we can work with your browser, and if you are not authenticated. So, for example, you are going to work with Google from outside, so you are at home and you need to access your Google account, and you have no connection to the internal KeyShield server. Then it asks you who you are, and you can enter your username and password manually, and it's working. As I mentioned, we have connector for each configured user source, which is typically an LDAP directory, and you see that we can work with more servers. We can use load balancing. So if you have 3 replicas of your E directory or set, it doesn't matter. Now you can say, okay, use those 3 LDAP servers, and I would like to use load balancing. Then we are sending requests to first, second set, and then it's a way how we can balance a load. And if one server is not listening, then you of course don't use it. Again, I told you that we are pretty fast, and we are pretty fast because the authentication is happening only once at the beginning, and then we are working with information we keep on the server side, but there is no database, no secret store, nothing vulnerable, nothing. You can work also with different attributes, so this is very nice for manual authentication because user can remember an email address or some account name or CNAME. So you can say, okay, this as a unique ID within the company is use email address, but for authentication you can use those 3, and you can say, okay, it doesn't matter if you don't remember again, just type in your email address and it's working as well. So whatever you need, you can set for your specific source, and then you have more connectors. You can even define 2 connectors to one user source, and each with a different setting. Clients, I mentioned clients. We have a downloads page on each installation. So if you deploy an appliance, you've got these clients. What we can supply from here, it's available here. What we can't, you just get information. You can go to our website, because, for example, it's not possible to deliver iOS clients from here. So we, of course, have our clients available through App Store, through Google Play, or through BlackBerry App Store. So overall, KeyShield SSO, it's a real IDP SSO solution with different interfaces. I promised you at last thing that I show you how easy it is to integrate through REST API. This is a request, because this API is available through HTTP, so you can just send a request like this, and you've got an answer. Pretty easy, pretty fast. This is XML. It's not so easy for a programmer to parse this, but you can use JSON. It's much easier. JSON is just something like comma-delimited file, so it's very easy to parse, and it's why I told you that even from Foxberry, it's easy. You send this request, you've got back this string, you parse, and you get the ID, which is in this case, let's say, and Smith. That's a unique identifier of the user. This is a real advantage because sometimes you need to ask your supplier, your developer, hey, I need SSO integration, and if you say, but I need XAML or whatever, they say, oh, it takes a month, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of resources. But with us, you can integrate within half a day, maybe a day, depends. For example, Novell did data synchronizer as a first integration, then GroupLink mobility server is integrated as well, and they did it in, I don't know, 3 days, but each day we were working only 2 hours together because that man, that programmer, he had not enough time. So that's it from me. It's about